Bradley, and my co-host is Corey Taylor. We're going to talk about some police business, some police stuff. We're going to talk about things like taking ownership of your own actions, things that you can do, and a mindset that you want to have when you get contacted by the police. When you see those flashing lights behind you, what you as an individual citizen, we're not even going to talk about what the officer should and shouldn't do at this point. We're going to talk about what you as the individual citizen should be doing and the mindset you should have. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel. And we appreciate you guys watching us. We're getting a lot of good feedback. And like I say, we just want to put some information out there, put citizens at ease, and have a better understanding of what interaction with police is like. Anything, Corey?
Like Mike said, hey, welcome back to another edition. Like I said, we're the Brothas-in-law. Like, share, and subscribe to us. Like Mike just mentioned, and like he said, we just want to make sure that everyone's encounter with law enforcement is done safely. But other than that, man, I'm doing pretty good, man. I had a pretty good week thus far. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing all right. So let's get into this. So earlier today, I had stumbled across a video on YouTube about individual's mindset when it comes to certain situations, being prepared and knowing what you would and wouldn't do. When you drive into the store and you get pulled over by the cops, of a person having some idea of how they're going to interact with that particular officer or that situation, whatever situation, whether it's a police contact or any situation for that matter. And the video talked about when I get pulled over by police, I'm going to have a mindset of what I'm going to do to make sure that I am able to leave that contact. And as we say in our C.A.L.M acronym, the last one is move on. And the video was real interesting because it used an analogy of walking in the crosswalk. And walking in the crosswalk, everybody knows, at least most people know, that when you're in a crosswalk, the pedestrian in the crosswalk has the right of way, and on approaching drivers have to yield to the pedestrian that's in the crosswalk. So they're going to move on through the crosswalk safely and make it to the other side of the road without being hit. But the analogy, the way it was used is, although the pedestrian has the right of way in the crosswalk, that's not going to stop that pedestrian from making eye contact with the driver that's approaching that crosswalk to make sure that driver sees that pedestrian that's crossing in that crosswalk. And before I'm crossing in front of that car, I want to be comfortable that that car knows that I'm in the crosswalk and I'm just crossing safely. And he used that analogy in comparison to, like, if you get pulled over by the police. Well, the police in that scenario obviously would be the driver of a car approaching the crosswalk. So I want to have in my mind that I'm going to do everything I need to do to make sure that police officer is able to accomplish their task, do what they need to do with me so that I can move on and go home safe. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to put that responsibility in that officer's hands to possibly make a bad decision and do something stupid. I want to do everything that I can to make sure I can walk home or get home safely so that I can cross through that crosswalk safely. You know what I'm saying, Corey?
Right. And this is really good because, this brings the C.A.L.M acronym into the light, because you have to be constantly thinking of these things. Shucks, like he said in the video, every day. He's thinking that this gentleman, and this was I think we had let the folks know who we're talking about here. Let me see. I'm gonna have to pull it up again real quick.
I got it right here. It was Jason Whitlock and Curtis Scoon, Scoon. That's where that was a YouTube video that I saw them two. I think it was actually Curtis Schoon's YouTube channel. And I
Okay.
wasn't too familiar with Curtis Schoon. Obviously, we know Jason Whitlock, but I
Right.
wasn't too familiar with Curtis Schoon. So I just happened to look at that video, and they were talking about that. So you guys, y'all can go to that video on YouTube. I think it's called Schoon TV.
Yeah, I tell you what, we'll put it in the link
Okay.
in the description below. Put the link to that channel or to that
Okay.
video on there.
Okay.
So, but you know, again, this I think what these gentlemen are talking about brings the whole C.A.L.M acronym to the forefront, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because he's talking about, you know, what his duties are, you know, what his responsibilities are, and to make sure he goes home, just like he said in the video, like, you know, the police want to go home, you know.
Right.
I think in this episode, let us talk now as the regular guys. We the regular black brothers now every day.
Okay.
So what is my thought process now? If I encounter law enforcement for traffic violation or expired registration, you know, what am I going to do? What are the thoughts going through my mind now as a citizen? You know, and first thing comes to mind to me, what I'm going to do, I'm going to comply. I'm going to be respectful. I don't need to be tactful or anything. If he's got or she's got a nasty attitude, hey, let me let you do your thing, because what, you know, like the gentleman was talking about in the video, the end result is for him to be able to drive on. Same thing with the last letter in the acronym for the M is to move on. I like the fact that he's taking personal responsibility for his actions.
Yeah.
And what we've talked about in previous videos about, you know, the domino effect, you know. And matter of fact, what we talked about last week in our last week video about escalation and de-escalation of force, you know, that officer is going to react to you on how you are, you know, coming back at them. Now, we all know officers got to be a certain way, but right now we're talking, you know, as a citizen. First of all, if he tells me that, hey, you know, you're doing 80 in a 55, knowing good and well I may not have been doing 80 in a 55. I'm not a speeder. But if that's what they say, okay, what I had to get in my mind, I'm not going to sit here and try to argue with this man on the side of the road. I already know it's not going to end right. And I'm not trying to be another statistic of a black man fighting the police and losing that battle. So I'm going to take that L. I know I can fight this battle in court and get this situation handled. And I like that's what he was saying. And that's how I think we all need to be. No matter if you're black, white, Asian, whatever the case may be, you need to be thinking of staying calm and each of these letters in this acronym, what they mean and how you can take those letters and pretty much personalize it, if you will, to what is going to make you safe. Right? Yes, you're going to comply. Yes, you're going to answer their questions. And yes, you're going to listen. And yes, you're going to be able to move on. So I think that was a very good point in which he was making. Like I said, I'm glad you sent me that video earlier, and I got a chance to take a look at it because I think at this point, you know, we got to take ownership in some of these.
Yeah, I agree. There's some level. There's, like we always said in the past, there's always some level of responsibility on the citizen too, you know, of who's being contacted by the police. And at the end of the day, one of the things that he focused on too was it's all about you moving on. Like we say all the time, in our C.A.L.M acronym, it's about moving on. It's about going home safely, having little to no confrontation with the police. Whether you like the police, whether you don't like the police, if you want to have as little conversation, a little contact with the police as possible, it's all about making sure that you have in your mind what you are going to do to make sure that you go home safely, and you don't create a situation that could potentially put you in danger or anybody in danger for that matter. Maybe you got a hot-headed cop that's getting ready to contact you. Maybe you got a cop that maybe don't know how to talk to you the right way. You see what I'm saying? Maybe you've been through some things that the cop don't know about that's got you amped up at the time when you are being contacted. You, though, have a just as big of, in my opinion, it's your life. You the one that you're making these solutions for, to make sure you go home safely. No one is more responsible for my life than me, right? So I want to make sure I do whatever I can to go home safely. And the other angle to that he was mentioning in his video is how, that cop doesn't want to get involved in no mess either. He don't want to get involved in potentially making a bad decision, because it's going to look really bad for the police officer if he is making a bad decision. And everybody got the cameras rolling nowadays, so that's not even an issue. You, as a cop, you should just assume that you got a camera on you. You see what I'm saying? You got your camera on, you can assume everybody else got theirs on. So they don't want to get into any issues with you any more than you want to get into any issues with them. So as the average citizen, have that plan in your head that when I see those lights behind you, this is what I'm going to do. And that's basically whatever that officer needs me to do to ensure that I'm going to be released and move on and get home safely. That's it.
Right. But the thing is, I think, our viewers know this, right? I wholeheartedly believe that they understand C.A.L.M and the acronym of C.A.L M. But what is it that these other individuals who out here are committing these crimes and things like that? I think these are the guys and young ladies that need to take ownership of their actions. They have to understand, and they have to start getting into their heads that once they have come into contact with law enforcement, they have to understand that at this point it's over. Right? It's not the time now to try to, have that mindset that I'm going back to jail. I ain't going back to jail, or whatever crazy thoughts they got running through their head. They have to start understanding that at this moment now, you need to man up or woman up and accept the responsibilities, because anything after that, once that contact happens, everything from that point on becomes a domino effect. You do something stupid, you're gonna cause the officer to do something. And prime example, I don't think, and I'm sorry the young man lost his life, but at the same time, had he had not done what he did, and I'm talking about the Dante Wright up in no, that was that was in Minnesota. I think that right, had this young man just went on ahead and got arrested, he would be with us here today.
That's true. Right? That's true. Now, when we say that, we want to make sure viewers know we're not saying that the officer didn't make a mistake. The officer made a tragic mistake.
No. I'm talking about the domino effect.
Right. The domino effect.
We're talking about taking ownership of your actions. We're talking and from the citizen's point of view. Right. I know I'm not going to do that. If I have a warrant out for my arrest, you know what? You got me. Just like everybody else. The thousands of other people that are apprehended every day, black, white, whatever color, are apprehended every day for outstanding warrants, are taken into custody without incident. But what I'm saying, I'm saying at some point you had to take responsibility for your actions, right? And so we can stop all these senseless killings. Yes, the officer has a responsibility. We got that. We know that there are bad law enforcement officers. We got that. But these individuals out here, these young men out here that are committing these offenses, and then when they get caught, want to take actions into their own hands by resisting arrest or shooting back at the police or fighting the police. No, this is what we're saying. They need to start taking ownership of their actions. The choices that they made, they have to own up to now the consequences for their actions. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Especially like you say, for those individuals that are up to no good, for those individuals that do have warrants or something like that. Number one, a warrant is not a reason to get in a fight with a cop. If you got a warrant, go on, take it. Look, a lot of times warrants in our city out here in California, when I was an officer out here, most of the warrants were what they call site releasable anyway. So if you get a warrant, we're gonna write you a ticket with a new court date. You usually got a warrant because you didn't show up for your first court date. So we're gonna write you a ticket and give you a new court date and let you go anyway. You see what I'm saying? If it's just about the warrant, you see what I'm saying? And if it's a warrant, every once in a while you got a warrant that will say, the judge will tell us that we don't want you to write them a ticket. We want you to book them into jail. Every now and then you get those kind of warrants too. Well, we used to call them they're called no cite warrants out here. You see what I'm saying? So and if that's the case, then you already know you're going to get ready to go to jail. You're going to go to jail, go see the judge and handle your business that way. So a warrant is not something that is worth you getting into a fight or a physical altercation with an officer. Once that officer says you are under arrest, that is it. There is no, never mind, I changed my mind, I don't want to arrest you. You see what I'm saying? There isn't a situation where you, by what you say, is going to change that officer's mind. If you had a warrant and you went to your attorney and you said, my attorney made sure that they went to court and said I wouldn't have a warrant. Well, you do. If it's in the system, it's in the system as far as the police go. So if you're going to go to jail, you're going to go to jail. Point is, right, there's no need for a physical confrontation for a warrant. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, we got to use physical force if you choose not to go. If I say you're under arrest and you say, no, I ain't, well, of course, a physical altercation is going to take place if you're trying to resist going to jail. You see what I'm saying? I don't want that. As an officer,
yes, those are the type of things we need to nip in the bud as a community. At that point, you have to take the L. We just have to humble ourselves, I think, at some point and just take that L. No matter if you think that warrant is valid or not. These folks have to just take that L and let's deal with it in court.
Yeah.
Right. If you're right, it'll play out in court. Right. Mm-hmm. Because, family members, the viewers, these folks that are out here doing this. And we know our viewers aren't the ones out here doing these things. But it's information to you to get out to these people, these young folks, particularly African Americans, to stop having these type of attitudes towards law enforcement, which ultimately ends in an altercation with law enforcement, and then somebody end up losing their life, whether it's the police officer or the young man or woman. And this is what we're trying to prevent.
That's what we're trying to prevent ultimately. Move on.
Right. You move on.
You should know in your mind what actions you are going to do. If you get pulled by police, let's say I get pulled over by the police, and I already know I got a warrant. You see what I'm saying? So I already know one of two things are gonna happen. He either gonna write me a ticket for this warrant, or I'm gonna get booked into jail. You know that. Most guys know that, and they know that they probably have a warrant. You see what I'm saying? Let it play out. You should have in your mind the objective is not to get into a fight. The objective is not to do anything that's going to cause this officer to do something out of the ordinary. You see what I'm saying? The objective is for me to safely go home, safely be released. You know that's not going to happen if you decide to not go with the program that the officers are telling you to do. That's definitely not going to happen. Whether it's something minimal or something really big. You see what I'm saying? So it's all about, again, we say this a lot too. How you respond to that officer is how that officer is going to determine what that officer is going to do. You see what I'm saying? So if you got it, if you're getting ready to go to jail, you're getting ready to go to jail. If they say, once that officer says, put your hands behind your back, you need to put your hands behind your back. If you just do that and get handcuffed and go to jail, that'd be the end of that. You see what I'm saying? There won't be any more confrontation. When you start changing that dynamic is when they say put your hands behind your back and you refuse to do so. Or if you're getting ready to get cuffed and you say you snatch away from them and say, wait, what's going on? No, don't do that. No, because remember what we told you. That officer has to maintain control of the situation and everybody in it. When you snatching away from an officer while he or she is getting ready to handcuff you, you just changed the whole dynamic of that contact. Now that officer has to elevate his or her actions just to get you under control, physically under control. You can say what you want to. You said as far as verbally, I'm talking about. As long as you are doing what I need you to do as an officer, as long as you as the citizen are doing what I need you to do, that I'm telling you to do. Doesn't matter if you agree with it or not, right? We talked about that. Arguing on the street is not the place to do that. You save those arguments for a courtroom. Okay? If you need to sue somebody, sue somebody. You need to take them to court, take them to court. That's fine. Okay. And that's the only thing. That's the big message we're trying to get across is have a mindset of how you gonna make sure you get home.
Right.
That's it.
Now, and so again, we're talking about taking ownership for your actions. So if you're out here drinking and driving or doing drugs and you encounter law enforcement, all right, again, you have to just go ahead and take that L. And I can tell you, I was a big DUI type guy. I didn't like drunks out here on the road, right? And the reason why I say that is because my family drives up and down these roads, right? And a lot of my friends drive up and down these roads, and their family drive up and down these roads. And I don't want you out here getting to a crash with them and killing them. So I was hot and heavy on the weekends, looking for DUIs. All right. So if you're that type of person and you out here, understand you need to take accountability for your actions. If you're gonna choose to get in that driver's seat and drive under the influence of alcohol or under the influence of some type of drug or narcotics, understand that's not the time to flee, right, from law enforcement, and get yourself in in a worse situation than what you're already in, and then deciding to fight the officer. And then once you've kind of come in contact with them, because it ultimately ends in a crash or some type of a way to you know what I'm saying? So I mean, you got to think of these things. Even if you do get pulled over for a DUI, you got to start thinking. I mean, you're not going to be thinking anyway because you're not in the right frame of mind. But you just need to know at that point, you need to take personal accountability for your actions, of what just took place. And I can't tell you how many times I had to fight drunk guys on the side of the road because they don't want to go to jail because they were drinking. Now, man, you going to jail. Mm-mm.
And since you brought up DUI, you got me thinking about that one incident. I can't remember where it was, but the incident of the guy in the drive-through of a fast food restaurant, I think it was. He was DUI.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he ended up running away, grabbed a hold of the officer's taser.
Yeah.
When you talk about that, speaking of DUIs and making sure you do what you need to do to go home or whatever you're going to leave with your life, right? Keep in mind when officers are stopping people for DUI, once they have a suspicion that you are DUI, whether that's the smell, how you talk to them, whether you got bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, unsteady on your feet, it's clear that you are driving under the influence of alcohol. We can't just let you go. We can't just say,
right,
let's park your car over here and I'll call you a cab. You see what I'm saying? In spite of what the average citizens might think, there's actually a lot of liability on the officer if he lets someone who he or she has determined is under the influence of drugs or alcohol and is driving. If we let that person go, let's say we let that person park their car and walk home. You see what I'm saying? Or let's say we let that person park their car and we call them a cab. And that person gets into the cab and causes the driver of the cab to crash because he got into a fight with him. Or he went down the street and shot somebody and killed somebody. Well, that's going to come back on the officer who initially made the contact with this person that they suspected was DUI, and they didn't do anything. They didn't take him to jail and complete the full process of a DUI arrest like they're supposed to. You see what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people don't understand that because I hear a lot of comments of why didn't they just call him a cab, let him go home? Well, we can't do stuff like that on DUI. So it's important that if you know you've been drinking and like you said, most people know that the officer's going to at least have them do field sobriety examinations outside. They know these things. You see what I'm saying? And if you know that, just go ahead and do it. If the officer determines you are in fact DUI and decides to arrest you, just go ahead and be arrested. You see what I'm saying? Don't do anything to escalate that contact because that officer is going to have to take some action with you. And if you are DUI, it is definitely going to be an arrest. You see what I'm saying? You know that out the gate. That officer is not going to change their mind and say, well, I'm going to just let you walk home. Let's park the car over here and I'm going to let you walk home, or I'm going to take you home. We're not going to do that. Okay. A DUI is a DUI. An officer's responsibility, obligation, is legal obligation is to arrest that person who is driving under the influence of alcohol and or drugs. And I think a lot of citizens don't realize that,
Yeah.
So just, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but and that, again, that's just one of those situations where at a minimum they just have to know that they have to take that loss, take that hit and go on and get arrested for the DUI or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Because that just isn't going to end well. This is what we're trying to prevent, folks get into altercations with law enforcement. It's not worth it. All the tension and everything and between law enforcement and people want to defund the police and everything, we all are of the same race, right? We're all one, right? We just had a different profession than some other people did, right? But at the end of the day, the citizens that we encounter are family folks too, as well as law enforcement officers are family folks, and both want to go home at the end of the day. Whether
that's the key. That's the key right there.
whether they had a nice night out, might have had a little bit, too much drink, but then we as adults need to take that extra responsibility, knowing that, hey, I'm a, if I just had this discussion with another buddy of mine the other day. We went out riding on our bikes, and I said, yeah, man, if I know I'm gonna be out somewhere and I'm gonna have a few drinks, I'll call my wife, tell her where I am. I will leave my bike or I'll leave my truck, and she will come get me. And we'll come back the next day and we'll pick it up. And that's how we've always been, right? Before I even became in law enforcement, especially on when I was on active duty. It's just something we as adults, we gotta take responsibility for that. We gotta take ownership of this, of our actions when we go out here and get behind these vehicles. You got to be responsible, knowing, okay, you late for work. That don't mean you now got to go Mach 3 down the road. All right, because guess what? You ain't the only one on the road. But then when you get stopped by the police, you all, uptight. You're already late. Now you didn't got stopped by the police. It ain't worth it, because like I tell, stop people on the road. Hey, you can go 100 down the road right now. Guess what? You still gonna be late, right? you still gonna be late, right? So slow down, right? We got to take action for our responsibilities, man. I mean, a lot of these shootings, when you go back and you look at them, and like I say, I don't like Monday morning quarterbacking another law enforcement officer, but when you go back and look at some of these things, yes, we are aware that police have acted stupid and done stupid things that they should not have done. But at the same time, you have to look at both sides. And I'm not going to sit here and idolize or for a criminal whose whole life choices have been in criminal activity, and then he has an encounter with law enforcement and loses his life. I'm not going to hail him no hero, right?
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Because
not if you chose a life of wrongdoing like that.
There you go.
Sooner or later, whether it was the police or somebody else, you was headed down that path.
Right.
Like I say, we're not saying
it all stems from choices, Mike. Yeah, it all stems from choices and responsibility, right? One of our videos, folks, we're gonna do is we're gonna really break down the acronym of C.A.L.M, and I've gotten the biblical scriptures together now, and we're gonna break it down, and we're gonna look at it from a Christian perspective of staying calm and what these acronyms mean scripturally. Like I said, when we did a video a few weeks ago with Mr. Seiko Woods, and he said, hey man, I got some scripture to go along with y'all's acronym. I was blown away, right? And I started more and more thinking from a Christian perspective, like, well, you know what? How many of us are out here really being obedient and respecting authority, no matter if that person who's in the position of authority, meaning government, law enforcement, is acting inappropriately? We have a duty as Christians to still be a certain way, to act still a certain way, right? And when we get into that, it's going to wake us up and start us, really thinking and looking at, how we should be conducting ourselves every day. Because we shouldn't be I mean, you speeding, you're breaking the law. I mean, God commands us to obey, right?
No, I understand. I understand where you come from.
Yeah,
I understand that.
And that's what it boils down to, is like, we got to stop this stuff. These killings with law enforcement and fighting with law enforcement has to stop. Has to stop. Yeah. I know you're aware of. I guess they just released a video. I haven't had a a real good opportunity to sit down and look at it and take notes on. But I guess it wasn't a shooting though. I think I believe it was in Louisiana. The guy's last name was Green. What was his first name?
I saw parts of it. I didn't see the whole. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what led up to the police contact. I didn't look at the video.
I believe they said he died in a crash, but then video shows differently that they beat him, and I think he died from the injuries. And one of the officers on video that he was beating him. And
we have to look at that video. Probably talk about that.
But based on just the overview of what I've gathered thus far, it doesn't look good for the officers. And then you know, and that's the thing, you know, we know these are bad cops, and yes, if they acted foolishly, then you doggone right. Mike and I are gonna be the first ones that, you know what, they need to be buried under the jail for what they did, because they made all law enforcement look bad. And we know every one of us. Go ahead.
You gonna open up a whole new topic. but just real quick on that, we're gonna talk about that when I look at that video. Because Corey and I will be the first to tell you if an officer messed up, he or she messed up. Unfortunately, you do have now I'm going to talk about some of the older generation of officers. You see what I'm saying? Especially in possibly some of those southern or midwestern areas of the country where they are so used to doing things. I don't know how to use the right word, but in an old-fashioned way, or a way that definitely could be perceived as racist. They tend to do things more physically aggressive than what is necessary and what is needed. I think you got some cops that are stuck in that mentality of like the good old boy. I don't, maybe that's not the right term, but stuck in the mentality of, you know, you gonna do what I tell you to do, and I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to get you to do it, like to the point where they are abusive with their physical power, abusive with their authority, to the point where they're treating the person that they are arresting like an animal instead of a person. Right. Now I know that's a difficult thing when you say, for some officers, it might be difficult for them to say, this is the guy that just spit in your face, or took you on a high-speed chase, or just assaulted an officer, or did something, you know, that would raise that contact level, that elevate that. And it's hard for an officer to look at that person and try to be nice and polite. Yeah, you're not going to be nice and polite. You see what I'm saying? But you are going to be authoritative with that person, obviously. And you know, sometimes you get officers who take that a little too far, and they use the old-fashioned way of policing that don't fly no more. You see what I'm saying? And you almost got to reteach some of these dudes how you supposed to interact with a suspect. You see what I'm saying? Much less just people. I do agree with that, and that's going to be another show, I'm sure. Because
we'll do a part two. Yeah, we'll do a part two.
You know what I'm saying? We definitely gonna do a part two to that. But I heard what you're saying about that Louisiana thing. I understand there were some things that they did that was out of line. You know what I'm saying? And some things are done because they don't have the training, or maybe they forgot the training that they had. You know, such. One of the things I see on a common basis is officers handcuffing people and putting them face down on their bellies. You know, everybody, you know, today, most of the young officers, especially, they know that you got to put somebody in a recovery position once you do that. You see what I'm saying? You don't just keep them down there, because you want to monitor them, make sure they are breathing, make sure if they having trouble breathing, you know. Well, we're going to talk about that on another show. I don't mean to turn this into more than that.
Yeah. I mean, because the end objective is, you know, not to have an altercation with law enforcement and to move on. That's your end objective. That's what you should be thinking about, you know, as a citizen when you get pulled over by law enforcement or having some type of interaction with the law enforcement. It doesn't necessarily have to be a traffic violation, or if you call the police to your house. for whatever reason, you know, know in your head what you expect the outcome to be, and to be the compliant. The first letter in the acronym is no matter what your plan is, the number one thing you ought to be concerned about is complying with that officer if they're coming, you know, to the house, to your house for whatever reason.
Amen. I know we got off the topic a little bit, but yeah, that's what it boils down to. It's all about your mindset as a citizen. I get it.
Yeah. So, hey, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you like the content of this video, let us know your thoughts about this show here. Taking ownership of our actions, and when we interact with law enforcement, leave a comment below and let us know what you think. We'd like to hear more about your interactions with law enforcement, good and bad, and so we can discuss it here on our show or respond back to you via text message or whatever means necessary. Follow us on Instagram and also on Facebook at Brothas-in-law, and at Brothas-in-law _21 over on Instagram. So we hope y'all like this. We enjoy talking about law enforcement. That being said, Mike, you got anything?
No, you guys take care. Be safe out there.
Take care. God bless y'all. Be safe, and we'll see y'all next week.
All right. Peace out.